Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring the life of a truly fascinating figure from early Islamic history, Imam Ali.
He was an incredible individual.
And we're focusing specifically on his military campaigns alongside the Prophet Muhammad.
We've got some amazing source material here, excerpts that detail his incredible feats of strength, courage, and loyalty.
I'm not going to believe some of these stories.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
amazing. So maybe you could start by giving us a little bit of an overview of Imam Ali's role in early Islam, especially from a military perspective.
Okay, so the sources really highlight Imam Ali as this unwavering defender of the early Muslim community. You know, he was constantly at the Prophet's side, and actually many of the sources describe him as the Prophet's standard bearer.
Now, when we talk about a standard bearer, what does that mean exactly, especially back then in the context of early Islamic battles?
So the standard bearer was the one who carried the flag, the banner, which served as this visual symbol for the entire army. And it was a position of immense honor and responsibility. I mean, think about it. Not only did the standard bearer need to be incredibly brave because they'd be a prime target for the enemy, they also had to be completely loyal to the leader, in this case, the Prophet Muhammad.
So that really emphasizes the deep trust and respect that the Prophet had for Imam Ali.
Absolutely. Even from those very early days, the Prophet saw something special in him. And that really sets the stage for all the incredible feats we're about to discuss.
Speaking of which, let's get into the action. The sources begin with the Battle of Badr, the very first major conflict between the Muslims and the Quraysh tribe. So can you set the scene for us a little bit? What was the context of this battle?
Okay, so picture this. The Muslims are drastically outnumbered by the Quraysh, a powerful tribe who controlled Mecca and its surrounding areas. And the Quraysh were known for their wealth, their military strength, and their influence in the region.
So it was a real David and Goliath situation.
Exactly. And you have to remember the stakes were incredibly high. Control of trade routes and vital resources was at stake. If the Quraysh had won this battle, it could have been disastrous for this young Muslim community.
It could have potentially wiped them out.
Exactly. It was a real fight for survival. But the source tells us this amazing story that happened on the eve of the battle. It was a stormy night, and Imam Ali is out fetching water for his fellow Muslims. And in the middle of that storm, he receives not one, but 3 angelic greetings.
3 angelic greetings. That's got some chills down your spine. What was the significance of those greetings?
Well, remember, at this point, the Muslims felt incredibly vulnerable. They were facing a powerful enemy, and their very survival was in question. So these angelic greetings can be seen as a sign of divine favor, a reassurance that they were on the right path, that they had a higher power on their side.
It must have been an incredible boost to their morale, especially for those who might have been doubting their chances against the Quraysh.
It's like this surge of confidence and determination. And if those divine greetings weren't enough, we then have this incredible duel that takes place between Imam Ali and the champion of the Quraysh. This warrior was like one of the most feared fighters on their side.
So Imam Ali, divinely greeted, goes up against this legendary warrior. The source must have gone wild describing this.
Oh, it does. According to the source, Imam Ali displayed this amazing strength and skill, defeating the Quraysh champion decisively. And get this, he was responsible for the majority of the enemy casualties, more than any other Muslim fighter. That's insane.
Wow. So this victory at Badr, it was a major turning point, right?
It was. And it was achieved in no small part because of Imam Ali's actions.
And of course, victory doesn't always lead to lasting peace.
Right.
And the Quraysh weren't about to just accept defeat.
No, definitely not.
Which brings us to the Battle of Uhud. So how did this battle differ from Badr?
Well, at Uhud, the dynamics shifted. The Quraysh were back, and they wanted revenge. They returned with a vengeance, and this time it was a much more challenging battle for the Muslims. They faced a number of setbacks, with some key decisions backfiring, like the archers abandoning their strategic positions. This almost cost them the battle.
The archers leaving their positions. That must have thrown the entire battle plan into chaos.
Oh, yeah, you can imagine the panic. And at one point, the source describes this incredibly intense moment where the Muslims are being routed, and only a handful of men, including Imam Ali, are left to protect the Prophet Muhammad himself.
So it's down to the wire.
Yes.
With Imam Ali and a few others holding the line against the entire Quraysh army.
Pretty much. He's fending off attack after attack, risking his own life to protect the Prophet. It's really in this battle that you see the depth of his loyalty, but it's not all, heroism and valiant stands. The source also mentions this tragic event, the mutilation of the martyr Hamza, the Prophet's uncle.
That's heartbreaking, and it's a stark reminder of the brutality of war and the deep emotional toll that it takes, even amidst moments of victory.
It shows the lengths that the Quraysh were willing to go to try and break the Muslim spirit. But despite this tragedy, the Muslims, led by individuals like Imam Ali, remained steadfast in their faith and their determination.
Now, after such a devastating loss at Uhud, how did the Muslims manage to bounce back?
Okay, so let's talk about the Battle of the Ditch. This is where we see this incredible display of strategic brilliance.
Okay.
Faced with yet another formidable enemy alliance, the Muslims were inspired by Salman al-Farsi, a Persian companion of the Prophet, to dig this defensive trench around the city of Medina.
A trench, that's a pretty clever move.
Yeah,
So they're basically using the terrain to their advantage.
exactly. It was brilliant, especially considering that they were heavily outnumbered. But there's this moment of sheer terror described in the source. The enemy champion, Amr ibn Abd crosses the ditch and challenges the Muslims to single combat.
Oh, no.
And no one dares to face him, except, of course, Imam Ali.
Of course. Did the Prophet hesitate at all to send him?
He did. Can you imagine the weight of that decision? Right. But he eventually agrees. And as he sends Imam Ali out, he says these really powerful words. He says, "The entire belief has come out to face the entire disbelief."
Wow. What a statement. So how did the duel go? Did Imam Ali live up to the hype?
The source captures the intensity of this fight blow by blow. It's like really gripping. Amr even strikes a blow that cleaves Imam Ali's helmet in two.
Oh my gosh.
But in the end, Imam Ali emerges victorious, killing Amr and securing this pivotal victory for the Muslims. And this victory was so significant that the Prophet declared it, quote, the best deed of his community until the day of judgment. That's like the highest praise.
That's incredible. So the Battle of the Ditch was a major turning point for the Muslims.
Yes.
Would you say it finally broke the back of the Quraysh?
The source actually describes it as, quote, breaking the back of disbelief. And, you can see why. After this victory, the Muslims' influence in the region just continued to grow. They weren't just a small band of believers anymore. They were a force to be reckoned with.
But their struggles weren't over just yet, were they?
Oh, no.
What other challenges did they face?
Well, the source next takes us to the conquest of Khaybar, which was a series of battles against these Jewish fortresses that had proven really, really difficult to conquer.
Okay, so even for the battle-hardened Muslims, this was a serious military challenge.
Oh, absolutely. These fortresses were incredibly well fortified, strategically located, and fiercely defended.
So what happened?
The Muslims had already suffered losses trying to capture them, but then the Prophet makes this incredible prophecy. He declares that the standard will be given to someone who loves and is loved by God, and that this individual will be the one to achieve victory.
Okay, the stakes are high.
Right.
It's not just military strategy anymore, it's about divine favor. So who was chosen for this mission?
Well, I think you can guess.
It's got to be Imam Ali. He seems like the man for the impossible.
Yeah, you got it. But right before the battle, there's this one fascinating detail. Imam Ali is suffering from really painful eye inflammation. And the Prophet himself heals him, preparing him for this decisive battle.
Healed by the Prophet himself, and then given the standard. That's got to be a confidence boost.
Right.
So how did it go?
Well, the source says that Imam Ali performs this incredible feat in strength. He literally uproots the gate of one of the fortresses, allowing the Muslim army to storm in. And then he goes on to defeat Marhab, who was another legendary champion in single combat.
Hold on, uprooting a fortress gate. That's like superhuman strength.
It is.
And this Marhab guy, he was like a super warrior. Right?
He was considered one of the most formidable warriors on the opposing side, and his defeat really solidified Imam Ali's reputation as this almost mythical, most fearsome warrior in Islam.
It sounds like the conquest of Khaybar was a defining moment, not just for the Muslims' military expansion, but for Imam Ali himself.
Oh, definitely. This victory gave them control of vital resources, strengthened their position, and Imam Ali's leadership and military genius are, like, fully on display.
But these epic battles, they're just one part of the story, right?
Yeah.
Our sources also mention other military expeditions where Imam Ali played a key role.
Oh, there were so many campaigns, it's hard to keep track. We have the expedition against the Banu Qurayza, a Jewish tribe that had broken their treaty with the Muslims, which, highlights the really complex realities of war and the tough decisions that had to be made.
It reminds us that history is rarely black and white.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the campaign against the Banu al-Nadir, another Jewish tribe accused of plotting to assassinate the Prophet.
Yep.
And Imam Ali is instrumental in pursuing the culprits.
So he's not just a warrior, but also a protector, ensuring the safety of the Prophet and the Muslim community.
Yeah, definitely. But, it wasn't all about force and retribution. We also have instances of mercy and diplomacy. Like, for example, in Wadi al-Qura,
Mhm.
after conquering this region, the Prophet, influenced by Imam Ali's counsel, actually allows the people to keep their land and possessions, which demonstrates this, potential for peaceful coexistence.
That's remarkable,
Right.
especially for that time period.
Yeah, really. And then you have the campaign in Yemen where Imam Ali plays this key role in the peaceful conversion of the Hamdan tribe. And here you see his charisma and persuasive skills shining.
It's like we're seeing a more kind of multifaceted picture of Imam Ali emerging here. He's a warrior, but also a strategic thinker, a diplomat, a leader who inspires.
Exactly. And that brings us to one of the most significant events in early Islamic history, the conquest of Mecca.
This is a huge moment, right? The return to Islam's holiest city. It must have been incredibly charged, both emotionally and strategically. So what was Imam Ali's role in all this?
A crucial one. The source describes this secret march towards Mecca, which was a strategic maneuver designed to avoid bloodshed, minimize resistance. However, there's this tense moment where a letter is intercepted that could have jeopardized the entire mission.
Oh, no.
And Imam Ali is instrumental in securing that letter, ensuring the operation's success.
So he's thinking several steps ahead, preventing potential disaster. What was it like when they finally arrived at Mecca?
The source paints this powerful image of the firelight from the Muslim camp illuminating the night sky, instilling fear and uncertainty in the hearts of the Meccans. You could almost feel the tension.
Wow. It's like the darkness is illuminated by this approaching force.
Yeah.
What an image.
And then you have this really interesting story of Abu Sufyan, who was a former staunch enemy of the Prophet. He reluctantly converts to Islam just as the Muslims are about to enter Mecca. It's a powerful moment.
Wow. A dramatic change of heart right at the last minute.
Yeah, it's a really interesting moment.
So what happened next?
Well, not everyone in Mecca was so quick to embrace the Muslim army's arrival. There was resistance, fear, and uncertainty. But here's where Imam Ali's character really shines. The source contrasts the slogans used by two different standard bearers. One speaks of a fierce battle, and the other, Imam Ali, emphasizes utter mercy and protection for the people of Mecca.
Okay, what a powerful distinction.
Right.
And who was the one who said fierce battle?
That was Sa'd ibn Ubadah.
And what did the Prophet do?
Well, the Prophet actually takes the standard from Sa'd and gives it to Imam Ali, signifying his focus on reconciliation rather than retribution.
So a peaceful transition of power was prioritized over a forceful takeover. But I'm guessing there were still some pretty powerful symbolic acts, right? What happened to the idols that were worshipped in the Kaaba?
You're right, the destruction of the idols was a symbolic act meant to establish the dominance of Islam in Mecca. And get this, the source describes Imam Ali literally supporting the Prophet as he's smashing the idol.
So they're like literally dismantling the old order and ushering in a new era. Yeah, exactly.
And then to kind of cement this new era of peace and reconciliation, the Prophet grants a general amnesty to the people of Mecca, emphasizing forgiveness and a fresh start. What an incredible act of mercy.
It really is. But these challenges weren't over for the early Muslims, The source next takes us to the Battle of Hunain,
Okay.
where the Muslims face a new threat from the Hawazin and Thaqif tribes. And this battle's really interesting because it actually starts with a Muslim setback.
Oh, a setback. How so?
Yeah. They're caught off guard, and the source highlights the hypocrisy of those who had only joined the Muslim ranks for personal gain, because they abandon the fight as soon as things get tough.
So even within the Muslim ranks, there were divisions and those who weren't truly committed to the cause.
Yeah, absolutely. But amid this chaos and retreat, Imam Ali stands firm.
Of course.
And the source describes him rallying the scattered Muslim forces and leading them to eventual victory. It's another great example of his unwavering courage. Always holding the line. It seems like every time the odds are stacked against the Muslims, Imam Ali is there to inspire and lead them to victory. So I think we're starting to see a pattern here.
Definitely. But this battle also reveals a more personal side of Imam Ali, the spiritual warrior. The source includes his own account of his jihad, his struggle in the path of God. It's really powerful.
Wow. That must be a fascinating read.
It is. It's filled with expressions of sacrifice, devotion, and this, unwavering belief in their mission.
And that's a great reminder that these weren't just battles for territory or power. They were deeply spiritual struggles.
Absolutely. And that brings us to this really interesting event involving Surah Bara, a chapter in the Quran that introduced new laws regarding the Kaaba and its sanctity.
Okay, new laws regarding the Kaaba.
Right. And the Prophet initially chooses Abu Bakr to deliver this new revelation to the people at the Kaaba. But then something amazing happens. He receives a divine instruction to send Imam Ali instead.
Wait, a change of plans directly from divine intervention.
It's a pretty big deal.
How did Abu Bakr react to this?
The source portrays him as visibly upset by this, but the Prophet explains that this specific message could only be delivered by him or by someone who is, quote, part of him.
Part of him.
Yeah.
That's a really powerful statement. It suggests a connection that goes beyond the typical relationship between a leader and a follower.
It's a subtle but profound hint at the deep spiritual connection between the Prophet and Imam Ali, a connection that continues to be debated and analyzed to this day. And so the Prophet sends Imam Ali on his way. He delivers the message, which further cements his role as a trusted confidant and, a key figure in shaping the early Muslim community. But, our deep dive isn't over just yet.
Oh, no. We've got more. What else?
Yeah, we have one more stop.
Okay, hit me.
Our final stop takes us to the campaign of Tabuk, which was a very challenging expedition against the Byzantine Empire in the north. However, in this particular campaign, Imam Ali is absent.
Absent?
Yeah.
After all these stories of bravery and leadership, he's absent.
Well, the Prophet himself orders Imam Ali to stay behind in Medina, entrusting him with the city's safety and essentially acting as his representative.
So he's basically given the keys to the kingdom.
Exactly.
That's a huge responsibility, and it really speaks to the immense trust that the Prophet had in him. But I'm guessing that this absence didn't go unnoticed by others.
You're right. His absence fuels all these rumors spread by, hypocrites within the community.
Uh-oh.
They start questioning his loyalty.
Of course they do.
They insinuate that he was deliberately left behind.
The classic whispers of doubt. How did the Prophet handle this?
He shuts them down immediately. The source quotes his rebuttal where he compares Imam Ali to Aaron, the brother of Moses, a figure known for his righteousness. The Prophet emphasizes that just as Moses entrusted Aaron with his people in his absence, he trusts Imam Ali with Medina.
What a powerful comparison.
Right?
It's like he's saying, Imam Ali is my right-hand man. It completely shuts down any talk of disloyalty.
Exactly. And it further solidifies Imam Ali's vital role even when he's not physically present on the battlefield.
It's amazing to see the breadth of his contributions. From the battlefield to diplomacy to serving as a trusted confidant and representative of the Prophet.
It's really remarkable.
But we've really only scratched the surface here. We've seen his courage, strength, and his loyalty. But there's got to be more to the story. What about his personality? What qualities made him such an effective leader? I guess that's what we'll have to find out in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned because we've got much more to uncover.
I can't wait.
Wow, those battles were intense. Imam Ali was strong and courageous, but there's more to him than just being a warrior, right?
Definitely. The sources describe someone who was not only strong, but smart, strategic. He was thinking ahead.
Like at Glybar, uprooting that massive fortress gate. That wasn't just strength, it was strategy, knowing where to strike. Do you think anyone could have done that?
That's a great point. It's like he could see the whole picture, predicting the enemy's moves, turning things around. And remember the Battle of the Ditch. He didn't just attack Amr ibn Abdud. He offered him options, showing this amazing self-control in the middle of a battle.
He was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. But it wasn't just about winning battles, was it? There was something more driving him.
Absolutely. He wasn't fighting for personal gain. It was for a cause, for justice, for Islam. He had this deep faith and belief in something bigger than himself.
That's what makes his story so inspiring. It's not just about winning, it's about fighting for what you believe in, even when it's tough. It's the classic underdog story, right?
Exactly. Standing up for what's right no matter what. That's something that connects with everyone throughout history.
Speaking of inspiring, I keep thinking about that scene in the Battle of Uhud, where Imam Ali is defending the Prophet. He's surrounded, outnumbered, but he doesn't back down. What does that tell you?
It's this amazing image of loyalty, putting everything on the line for what he believed in, for the people he cared about.
Almost superhuman. But what made him such a good leader, aside from just bravery?
We've talked about strength, strategy, courage, but I think his deep faith is often overlooked. It wasn't just a belief. It was the fuel for everything he did.
So how did that faith make him a better leader?
It gave him strength to face anything, courage to never quit, and that unshakable belief in fighting for what was right no matter how hard. It was in every part of his life, from war to everyday interactions. It's no wonder people hold him in such high regard.
It makes you think, what can we learn from that? How can we find that kind of strength in our own lives, even if our challenges are different?
That's what's so great about history. We can find inspiration from people who came before us, see how they handled things, what they went through.
It wasn't all about battles, was it? The sources also talk about his wisdom, his justice, his compassion. He understood that true strength isn't just muscles, it's about character, about doing the right thing, even when it's hard.
Exactly. Remember how he advocated for mercy, even for former enemies? He knew that revenge just keeps things going. He wanted to build things up, not tear them down.
It makes you wonder, could we apply those same principles today? Could we learn from him and build a better society?
That's the question we all need to think about. How can we live those values, justice, compassion, understanding in our own lives?
Big questions. But we've been focusing so much on Imam Ali himself. How much of his success do you think was because of his connection with the Prophet Muhammad?
It's a great question. The sources emphasize their close bond, and it definitely shaped Imam Ali's life, how he became a leader.
Think about it. The Prophet saw his potential, mentored him, gave him huge responsibilities, even called him part of me. That's serious trust.
They had this deep connection, personal and spiritual, which let them work together, share a vision for the future. Their strengths helped each other. Their shared goal made them even more impactful.
It makes you think about the importance of finding mentors, people who believe in you, push you to be your best. But even with that bond, Imam Ali had his own talents that made him successful, right?
Absolutely. He was brilliant, courageous, compassionate. His success was a mix of his own skills, his relationship with the Prophet, and of course, that divine guidance they both received.
It's fascinating how it all came together to create such an incredible person.
Yeah.
He wasn't just one thing. He was a warrior, a scholar, a leader who showed strength and compassion.
He was a complex figure.
He fought for justice, valued knowledge, and inspired others to strive for a better world.
His life really shows the power of faith, courage, and wisdom. And as we finish this part, I think it's worth asking, how can we live those same values today?
What can we learn from him, not just as Muslims, but as humans? How can his story guide us in our own lives and our own search for justice and truth?
That's the challenge and the opportunity that his legacy gives to us all.
Welcome back. It's amazing how Imam Ali's influence is still felt today, even centuries later.
It's true. His story is more than just history. It's alive for people around the world. And one reason, I think, is his dedication to justice. That idea speaks to everyone.
He was a warrior, but it wasn't about just fighting. It was about what he was fighting for, protecting people, creating a fair society.
You see that in all those battles. He opposed tyranny, oppression, even when it was dangerous, even life-threatening.
He's like that classic hero, sacrificing for good. It reminds us true strength isn't just muscle. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard.
And think how relevant that is now. So much conflict, injustice. It's easy to feel helpless, like one person doesn't matter. But Imam Ali shows us that even small acts of courage, standing up for what you believe, can make a difference.
It's about finding that strength within yourself to speak out, to challenge what's wrong, to fight for fairness, even if it feels impossible. And it's not just big heroic things. It's the choices we make every day.
Exactly. Being kind to others, even if they're different. Speaking up when you see injustice, anywhere.
Those little things might seem small, but imagine lots of people doing them. That's the power of his legacy. It pushes us to act, to make the world better, even in tiny ways.
And there's another part of his legacy we haven't mentioned much. His focus on knowledge, on wisdom.
He said the greatest wealth is knowledge.
Yeah.
He loved learning, studying, just as much as courage in battle.
He saw knowledge as the key to progress, to understanding ourselves, the world. He wanted people to be curious, to keep learning their whole lives, not just facts, but to grow as people.
So education isn't just about memorizing stuff. It's about opening your mind, seeing things in new ways, being a better citizen, a better person.
Exactly. using what you learn to make things better, and knowing there's always more to learn, something new to discover.
What a powerful thing to leave behind. He was a warrior, a scholar, a leader who had strength and compassion. He fought for justice, he loved knowledge, and he inspired people to make the world better.
His life shows how strong faith, courage, and wisdom can be. As we wrap up this deep dive, the question is, how can we live those values?
What can we learn from Imam Ali's story to help us in our own day-to-day lives, our own struggles? How can we each, in our own way, contribute to making a world that's more just, more caring, and where knowledge is valued?
That's the challenge and the opportunity that Imam Ali's story gives us.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey exploring Imam Ali's life. We hope you learned something new and feel inspired, just like us.
Until next time.